Hello, everybody. I think it's a good thing to try to keep perspective these days on just where we actually are. Because there's the territory, the actual reality, and then there's the map that is being drawn of that territory, and these are not the same thing. Have you ever heard of the Potemkin village, the concept of the Potemkin village? So accounts of its origin vary between historical exaggeration and completely manufactured urban legend. But the story goes something like this. There was a Russian statesman named Grigory Potemkin who wanted to impress Empress Catherine the Great because he was one of her lovers, and she was on her 1787 tour of lands newly acquired by defeating the Ottoman Empire. And Potemkin was governor of these lands, and he wanted to put on just a great show of prosperity for her. But the region had just been ravaged. So what he did, according to legend, was he ordered a bunch of fake villages to be built along the banks of the river on Catherine's tour route, which Potemkin's men would then be dressed up as peasants. They would populate these village fronts for a show as her barge drifted past. Then once her boat was out of sight and nightfall descended, they would quickly disassemble this village, take it all down, and then rebuild it further down along the river to be ready for the next leg of her tour the next day. Thus, Potemkin would then project this false image of growth and reconstruction that actually didn't exist. And while this whole thing may not be based in much verifiable fact by 21st century standards, the phrase Potemkin village has lived on and has come to mean essentially a facade, a construction that's sole purpose is to make people believe that a poor country or a country that's not doing all that well is actually way better off than it is. I've seen some people argue this is a lot of what's going on in North Korea. I personally don't know because I've never been to North Korea. So I really can't say that that is or is not happening. I just know that when I've heard this phrase, I've heard it wielded in that direction. In fact, a lot of the Wild West towns have literally an architecture type that's called a false front commercial, where they would put up these really tall, fancy fronts on buildings, but the rest of the building was sometimes consisting of little more than canvas tents over wood platform floors. And they would do it because they didn't really want to put a lot of money into these towns. They wanted to get people to come into the towns and think there's more going on there so they can get people to invest, to build it up. Then they were going to build out the buildings. But sometimes that never happened. And that's why the fronts of the buildings all look way fancier than the rest of what is actually behind the front. And they literally called these false fronts. So that's a Potemkin village. And we'll come back to that in just a bit. We've done a lot of videos on this channel talking about the concept of the post-truth world, fake news, troll armies, bots, slanted search results. I mean, back in the day, the internet used to be a much different place. I know I'm going to start sounding like someone's grandma telling a campfire story about that one time when she was a kid, but for real, it was like the Wild West of anyone putting up anything they could think of, sharing a piece of their minds out in cyberspace. And we were sold on this idea of decentralization. That was the superficial version of what we were sold that the internet was supposed to be. The absence of centralized control. And anybody could put up anything, and if other people wanted to see that thing, they could go see it or not. I mean, I remember the first website I put up. It was Angel Fire, and I thought I was super cool because I had figured out some HTML. I built a generator that anytime someone would come to my page and refresh the page, it would pop up basically a quote that seemed like a deep philosophical quote, but it was usually something I made up about, hamsters or dancing hot dogs or something ridiculous that I personally I laughed at my own self for hours. I thought that was the most funniest thing ever. But I had fun, which now when I tell that story, it's like I walked uphill both ways in the snow to school. And I know what I sound like, okay? But it was kind of cool back then. And there wasn't this pressure breathing down your neck to cancel you every 5 seconds if you offended somebody, which, by the way, these days is extremely easy to do. All you basically have to do to offend someone is exist and say something on the internet. Doesn't matter what it is or how neutral you think it is. My mother follows a lady on YouTube who she does acrylic pours, which is where you get a bunch of different colors in a cup and you pour them out onto a canvas and it makes cool patterns and stuff with the paint. And there are people who come in there and tell her off and cuss her out and tell her she's trash, and it's literally abstract art. That is all she does. And there are people who apparently, if they're even real people and not bots, they just get up and live their whole lives to like trash her and tell her how horrible she is. And all she's literally doing what you would think would be some of the least inflammatory things a person can do online. And so it doesn't really matter what you do anymore in this space, right? But at the time, back in the day, it wasn't like everyone was just out to find someone to attack, or reason to be pissed off all the time about everything all the time. It was more about getting to know other people and learning interesting, cool stuff that you didn't know before. And it wasn't sanctioned. It wasn't official. You didn't have to have a bunch of letters behind your name in a certain order. You didn't have to spout off a certain political view. You didn't have to fight with random strangers all the time. You could just put something up and it was just there. And you could just be you, and it could just be whatever that was. It was just all kinds of perspectives. There was an intellectual curiosity that was fueled by this vast space of just everything. And we're at a bad place on this internet now. And as the years go by, everything seems to be more and more and more about this carefully curated image of reality. And there's almost like a war going on over what that image is and the perception that frames it and what's allowed and not allowed to think and feel and share in this space. And everything that doesn't fit into this carefully built, carefully propped up, promoted image, or heaven forbid, goes against the accepted narrative that the majority seems to be on board with at any given time, or even questions that narrative, right? Then you get locked up in the digital no-no closet and buried in the algorithm or black holed altogether. I mean, our channel, I've watched our channel get picked apart by the vultures. And depending on what's going on at a certain time, stuff will get dug up that was put up on here 8 years ago so that it can be deleted, because now it's inconvenient to talk about that, even though it's totally, we have gone out of our way on this channel to put up things that are backed by sources. We have tried to cite ourselves, sometimes excessively so, especially if what we're talking about is extremely controversial, especially then, okay? But I have seen this thing get picked apart. I have seen it get black holed and buried in the algorithm. I have actually done experiments on our own channel where I will, in quotes, paste in a title of a controversial video, and I will put quotes around it, and I will paste it into the search box, and you cannot find that video. It's like they lost it. It's just lost somewhere, right? You'd have to scroll down. I have scrolled down. Sometimes I will find it. It'll be like 146 videos down the list, and finally it pops up. They can find things, they can promote things, and they can lose the hell out of some things. It feels like, and I've even made this analogy before, that the internet has increasingly become this very tightly controlled Star Wars trash compactor. The walls are just slowly moving in. But it's not just moving in on trash, it's actually moving in on a game of musical chairs that's being played in the middle. And for years I've watched these patterns unfold. Anyone who's had to do work online becomes pretty accustomed to data patterns. If you even mildly pay attention, you can see what's happening. You can watch it unfold. If you talk about what the algorithms promote, or what I would call, quote, non-threatening to the box topics, things that don't threaten the box, you can get millions of followers and have your stuff promoted everywhere, all over the place. But if you attempt to use this space to have serious conversations about controversial things or ask the sticky questions, then you just get your channel buried. You get your videos gagged, hogtied, and stuffed in the digital basement. You essentially get put in a cyber chamber so tiny it doesn't even really echo. Cyber purgatory. And there's all kinds of craziness that has happened to the channel. I've actually sat and watched a video that I've put up lose 100,000 views. Just bam, like 100,000 people unwatched this. By some process of witchcraft, the views left their brain and went back into the screen. It was amazing, you know? And when you work like this as hard as we do, and you watch a channel grow and change the way that we've watched our own channel evolve over the years, you can literally sit and watch the patterns of your work getting screwed with in real time. And I know you've probably heard that, not just from us, but lots of people that you've followed on here. We're not unique to that at all. This is happening to a lot of people. And as that has continued, we've also seen a pattern to online commentary. And there are people that are starting to come up with these theories, like the dead internet theory and stuff like that, because things are starting to feel very simulated because of how curated everything is, I think. I mean, people are starting to really comment on noticing how contrived a lot of online discourse has seemingly become. And there's questions there. I mean, is it a consequence of the curation of this information in this very slanted, one-sided way? The learned helplessness of just resigning one's own intellectual curiosity to the Borg and just passively accepting whatever we're told about every single thing, because people are starting to get afraid to even ask questions now in this situation that we're all in digitally here? Is it people trying to appease the artificial intelligence and the digital overlords who program it? I don't think people realize how much online traffic is bot traffic. It's a lot. Numbers have suggested anywhere between 40 to 60% of online traffic is not human beings at all. There was a report that was put out back in 2013, 61.5% of web traffic came from bots. That only leaves 38.5% of website traffic actually coming from real human beings doing real things online. And they got bots for all kinds of things, and I'm sure we don't know the extent of that, and we probably never will. And there were companies that are out there that sell followers and likes and clicks and make it look like people have all these millions of followers and stuff, and they don't. They bought it. They bought those. They're bots. There was actually an article in phys.org in 2017 talking about using bots to modify people's behavior. So there's a lot going on. I mean, how much of the internet is fake? These questions have been asked. This was in the Intelligencer in 2018, December 2018. How much of the internet is fake? And it talks about how there's fake metrics, there's fake people, there's fake businesses, fake content, politics. I mean, it's a very interesting article. I don't think people realize the level that this is at, though. According to internetlivestats.com, there are now almost 2 billion websites in existence, although they claim less than 200 million of them are active. I mean, depending on the source, other sources say there's 1.5 billion, 1.7 billion, but there's well over 1 billion websites out there. That is what we're told. We're constantly being told that the internet is just this ever-growing, vast digital universe of information that just stretches on, right? And when you search for something online, you are confronted with results numbers that are that massive. Sometimes the search results come back depending on which search engine you use, and there are millions and billions of results for a single search. Way more results supposedly are coming back for a search than any organic human could ever naturally wade through, even in multiple lifetimes, for one search. And I've mentioned in past videos, but it is well known at this point that the majority of people who search for something on the internet do not click past the first page of results usually. Many of them don't even scroll down. Back in 2020, they did a study, Search Engine Journal reported that out of billions of search results, over 25% of people who use Google, which is the #1 search engine, over 25% of people who search for something, they literally click on the very first link that is offered to them. They don't even look at the second or third option. This data was analyzed over 80 million keywords and billions of search results. And they found out that by the time people get down to the 10th result, there's only a 2.5% click-through rate. So hardly anyone is going past the 10th result. Now, I ended up in a strange part of the internet recently over at Angora Road's Macintosh Cafe. And this user, Anonymous MVP, was talking about, is the internet shrinking? And they were talking about dead links and things like that. But they said, do this experiment, check it for yourself. And so I'm gonna replicate what was posted there because I want you to see this for yourself. And I don't use Google as a search engine. I have been using DuckDuckGo, but DuckDuckGo also heavily relies on Bing from what I have now read. So I'm not even sure what search engine would be the right one to use at this point. I know that stuff changes all the time. But the point is that most people use Google or Bing. That's the #1 and #2 search engines. Now, check this out. So this person did a search for climate change, which is something that should have quite a bit written about it since it's a topic that affects, one way or the other, no matter what side of that issue you're on, that's affecting everybody, right? But I want you to see this for yourself. So let's type in climate change to Google. Check this out. Okay. This says there are 868 million results that come up in 0.65 seconds. Wow, that's a lot of results. That's so many results. I will never be able to read all of those results, right? But let's look at this for just a second. First of all, this is the top part of the page that comes up. And if you really take a look at what you're looking at here, almost everything you're looking at comes from one source, the UN. So you have the effects of climate change from the United Nations. Down here you have the causes, also from the United Nations. The definition, also from the United Nations. Actions from UN Act Now. IPCC, World Meteorological Organization, that's also the UN. You have United Nations Environmental Program. In fact, the only thing right here that I'm immediately seeing that is not the UN is Environmental Defense Fund. Everything else that they are showing you right here looks like all these links, all these things you can click on. It's so many things. No, this is basically one source, what you're looking at. So it's not thousands of results or hundreds of results or even a dozen here. It's basically one thing, one source. Okay, but so let's scroll down. So then you got top stories, and that's all official mainstream sources. CNBC, Time, CNN, Washington Post, CNBC again, Scientific American, Wall Street Journal. So that's all official news, right? The officially sanctioned stuff. Then you've got NASA, which is the government, the IPCC, which is the Environmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the United Nations. You also have another United Nations thing. You have Wikipedia. Then you have some organizations. You have some more government stuff. The World Health Organization, which again is the United Nations, the NRDC organization, the World Bank. Those are the top sources. So that's what you get, right? But it says up here, right, that we have 868 million results. That's a lot. So that's not going to just be these people, right? So let's find out. Let's go all the way to the end. Let's go all the way to the end of these 868 million results that we have up here. And something starts to happen, because now I'm on page 19 and there's only 181 results. So what happened there? Because a minute ago it said all this other stuff. You go down here to the bottom, there's only 19 pages. It says, in order to show you the most relevant results, we omitted some entries that are very similar to the 181 that have already been displayed. If you like, you can repeat the search with the omitted results. Well, I want to do that because I want to get to some other sources. I don't want just these first ones that have been offered to me. I want to see, Bob's blog about the climate change. I want to see what he has to say about it. Some random guy. So let's repeat it again and try to find some other options. So now we have 1 billion results now. See this up here? It says there's 1 billion results. 1,060,000,000 results. That's so many. Still in less than a second. So let's scroll down here and do the same thing over again. And I'll probably fast forward this in the edit. Let's get all the way to the end of these many, many, many results. Sorry, I got like the elevator music in my head. All right. 43. Okay, so that's the last page. And there's no more, you can't go over any more than that, see? 43, that's it. I mean, there's a see more here, but that's for related searches, so that's not this. This stops at 43. So we're on the 43rd page, and now we have 422 results. What happened to the 1 billion results they claimed they had about this topic? Where did those millions of pages go? Between the first page and this page, where now there's only 422 results and I just scrolled through them all, and that's it. And if you look here, what are you looking at on this very last page? We got ucsd.edu, Financial Times, another EDU website. I mean, let's just click on a random page, page 34. What do we have? We have duke.edu, Nat Law Review, the California government, Bloomberg.com, Boston.gov, Reuters. Do you see this? Where's Bob's blog? Where's anybody's blog? Where's anything that's not one of these official, like EPA.gov and IPCC and Nature.com and the Wall Street Journal? What happened to the internet? Where's the rest of it? Where's the billions of results that supposedly exist that has everything as far as the eye can see, right? Where did it go? Where is it? And by the way, let's do this on Bing too, because this isn't just Google. So we're going over to Bing now, climate change, click. Okay, a little bit different. So we've got 18 million and some odd results. NASA's your first thing here, and Wikipedia over here. And then you have the NIH.gov, you got the UN down here, and another NASA website down here. And we've got 5 more pages. So let's do the same thing. Let's go as far as we can. I clicked on 5. Let's go as far as we can on, oh, see? I clicked on 5. What happened? 5. Nope. It won't even go to 5. 5 is not even a real number. It just keeps taking me back to 4. None of these numbers down here are even real links to anything. They don't go anywhere. This over button just takes you right back to page 4. So 5, 6, and 7, those aren't even real pages that go anywhere, clearly, as you can see. It just keeps taking you back to page 4. And what's on page 4? NASA, the United Nations, the NIH again. It's all the same thing. National Geographic, USGS, townhall.com, nrdc.org, and Britannica. That's it. What else do we have? Nothing. We don't have anybody else. We just have NASA, Town Hall. In fact, these are all the same things. If I go back to page 2, it's like I'm stuck on page 4. It won't even let me go back. It still says there's 18 million results, but where are the 18 million results? There aren't any. Now I'm trapped on page 4 like it's some kind of weird time rift I've stepped into. I can't even get back to page 1. It's not even letting me go. Look, if I click on page 1, oh, here we go. It did let me go back to page 1. All right, cool. But before it wouldn't let me. Now I'm on page 2, and as you can see, it just skips to page 4. Like, what's even happening with these search results? They don't even make any sense. Like, this makes no logical sense. Everybody knows how to count. You learn how to do that when you're not even in kindergarten. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it works. Like, what's even happening here? Do you see what I'm saying? There's actually only 2 real pages of results. There's this page that shows you like these 4 or 5 things here. And then when you go over to 2, this is that same page that happens with 4. See, look, 2 is 4, and none of these other pages exist. That is what is happening. That's the search results for climate change on Bing. That's it. So it's not a billion search results, or even a million search results, or even 100 search results on this page. You see? It's 48 search results, and there's basically like a digital wall here, and I can't get out of it or past it. So that's it. That's all there is.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
So I was showing this to Aaron. He goes, okay. Maybe it's because you're typing something in that's had a lot of controversy surrounding it. Type something that, is just kind of benign. And he just randomly said, like do a search on Super Bowl. All right, do a search on Super Bowl. So, Super Bowl, it claims, has 1,360,000,000 search results. Holy cow, that is a lot, right? In 0.69 seconds. That's so many results. And so you have the NFL.com, makes sense that they would be first, right? You have a Wikipedia thing here. ESPN is next after that. You've got some NFL videos here. Then you have CBS Sports, NBC Sports, ProFootballReference.com, the New York Times, and ET Online. And so let's do the same thing. Let's go down to the bottom of the screen, and we'll just click over as far as we can go. As far as we can go is 15 now. And when you scroll back up, it says 142 results. That's way less than 1.36 billion, isn't it? When you get down here, it says, if you like, you can repeat the search with the omitted results. Well, let's do that. I want to see how many there really are. So when you do that, you still have over 1 billion results up here, it says. But once again, let's scroll down here as far as we can go. And once again, when you reach that magical number 43, see, there's no more you can do. There's related searches, but there's no more on this search. You cannot go any farther than that. And when you get back up here, you have 429 results. That's it. So the billion results that you supposedly had, you will not find those billion results. You are gated. You are digitally being gatekept from them. It's not something you can reach on here. And you can, by the way, try this with any search for anything. I have tried it now with several other things, just random, like a random movie star's name and other stuff. Like, try it with anything. Do this with anything. You can replicate this experiment all day. It is the same so far. I have not found anything that just goes on and on endlessly. It is now capped at between 150 and 500 results for everything that I have tried. And same goes for Bing. And these are your main search engines that everyone's using. So even if you're personally using some other search engine, the whole rest of the world, the majority of people in that world are basically being given this tiny handful of curated information. That's what's going on now. That's where the level that we are at. And you will notice as you're digging through here that what's being served up to you is all the official sources. officially sanctioned, officially approved government institutions and organizations and colleges and universities and approved official mainstream media sources. But here's my question for you. What if I really do just want to know what Bob from Oklahoma thinks about the Super Bowl? What if I just want to see his Super Bowl blog that he made on some random web page that he created? What if I don't care if Bob doesn't work for ESPN or a specific university or a specific mainstream media outlet? What if I don't care if Bob doesn't have, degrees behind his name or 15 letters on his business card or the official sanction of an official institution from the official system? What if I really just want to have online what used to be known offline in the real world as a conversation with an actual person who's not representing the face of some corporation or some official entity? In reality, when you're going down the street or you're at the grocery store and you run into a person or you're talking to somebody at the library or whatever, you don't vet them first. You don't say, well, I want to know before we have this conversation and you tell me what your thoughts and feelings and opinions on this matter are, can you please give me all of your official titles from the official organizations that have officially sanctioned you to officially talk about this topic? Like, you don't do that. You don't do that in real life. People in reality don't vet conversations they have with other human beings as if you can only have them with people who are system approved about specific certain things. Like, that's ridiculous. If that's the way the real world worked, many of us would be completely alone, having never communicated with another human being ever. Okay? And if you look up more controversial topics having to do with things that and we all know what's recently been censored pretty hard. If you look up those things, they're completely sanitized altogether from search results now. A couple years ago, before the Rona happened, there was maybe one or two websites that you could find that were actual organizations that have their sources also cited. But now, you would have to know the name of that thing to specifically find it. You would have to know the name of it. So you're not going to happen upon it by accident or by chance or have the option put before you so that you can make your own decision about that topic. It's just been wiped completely clean of those quote unquote impure thoughts. Proof that they don't want you to escape the matrix. So you can't accidentally find things anymore. You have to know exactly what you're looking up. And maybe they'll deliver it to you. Maybe. It depends. First, you might have to wade through page after page after page of counter narrative to get to the narrative that you're actually trying to research or look into or find out about. You get one answer. Remember when Eric Schmidt said there was going to be one answer? That's how this is supposed to work. One answer.
What my question is leading to is help us understand where's the future of search going.
Well, when you use Google, do you get more than one answer? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's a bug.
Yeah.
Because we should be able to give you the right answer just once. We should know what you meant, and we should never be wrong. So
who owns, in 2022, in the 21st century, who owns the narrative? Who owns the perception of reality? Who owns the perspective? Where is this top-down image coming from? And so what this is doing is it's, first of all, not only is it culling information, hiding information, presenting one unified view of everything that is the approved view that everyone can see and know about and learn about and have reaffirmed over and over and over, but it's also pushing people towards social media because that's the one place where you can interact with other people. And I've done videos before. We have talked about this extensively, the kinds of feedback loops and behavior modifications that are employed on these platforms. It's well known that Silicon Valley has come out and talked about this in detail about the things that are going on in the various social media platforms. But that's where everyone gravitates towards because you're not going to find Bob's blog. I feel like this is horrifying, that this is the level that they've now made this place to. And the fact that this is going to then be transformed into the metaverse. I mean, what is that? That's like they murdered the internet. It's freaking dead. And now you just put the wear the screen on your face to stare at the dead body of what used to be the internet. It's pathetic. This is really sad. And they already, in that whole metaverse thing, by the way, that we talked about, they did already say that they were going to teach creators how to make the thing. So they're already talking about the levels of control that are going to be placed on what is allowed to be made in that place as well. So that's all going to be just the same levels, if not even more controlled levels of curated, controlled information. When you really step back and look at this, how digitally speaking, is this any different than the wall that Truman slams into when he's trying to escape at the end of the Truman Show? You know, the fake wall with the clouds painted on it, the optical illusion that's made to look like an endless horizon out at sea, but it's just right there and he slams right into it because it doesn't go on forever because it's actually a very small bubble. That's what this is. This is a digital bubble. This is like the Matrix bubble inside the Truman Show dome. That's basically what this is now. And in that way, how is this any different from a cyber Potemkin village? I mean, it has this appearance, right, of billions of search results. There's a billion sites about this. I could learn about this for my whole life and never run out of varied opinions about it. Never run out of different viewpoints and amazing new things to learn from different people telling me their, thoughts on this matter. It could be all kinds of crazy perspectives, and you can really broaden your horizons and expand by learning about the world through the eyes of other people. But it's not. That's not what any of this is now. This is all just one tiny drop in a bucket of just hand-fed, curated, officially approved stuff. That's it. So it has this appearance of vast amounts of information just strung out in ones and zeros as far as the eye can digitally roam, but they've actually painted a wall around it. So the horizon's not really that far at all. It's just a few pages in and about 400 results, and that's it. So it's just a handful of carefully curated information that gets promoted to the masses, and that's what everyone gets to know here. That's it. Think of the ramifications of that going forward. This is beyond 1984, okay? It's beyond it. Orwell couldn't have, he didn't even get to the point of it being to this level. He didn't. This is insane. This is horrifying because it has ramifications offline too. This isn't just like, well, that's online and that's it. This is where future generations are going to go to get information on everything. And they're only going to have this very limited view. This isn't everybody connecting to each other in some magical online universe that just stretches out as far as you can possibly go in all directions. That's not what this is at all, even remotely, even a little bit. I'm starting to wonder if people in China get more than 400 results. That's the level, okay? And supposedly they got the totally censored internet. How is this not? How is this not? Because you can't just accidentally find someone's blog anymore. You can't accidentally find anything anymore. You can get this very small amount of information that's carefully been selected that's officially okay for you to have, and that is it. My own parents didn't censor what movies I watched as a teenager as much as this is censoring what I can look up and find on this internet. So I guess Google's everybody's daddy now. And Bing is everyone's mommy. That's a pretty traumatic childhood. Anyway, I guess I just needed to show you guys that because when I saw it for myself, I'd like to say it's not shocking. But it would go a pretty far way to explain why things feel so simulated online these days. If this is the level that we're at with the amount of information that people are quote unquote allowed to see, this would be like if every radio station you flip to, every single song that played was the exact same type of music and all of it was auto-tuned. This would be like if you went to an art museum and every single piece of art vaguely resembled each other. And there really wasn't a lot of difference going on in what you were looking at. This kind of thing is going to create a world that is so bland and boring and stale and hollow and trite and derivative and lifeless and soulless, and it's a giant digital Potemkin village. That is what this is becoming. This is not going to create imaginative thinkers with critical thinking skills and unsatiable curiosity for the world. That's the opposite. What this is the opposite of what is going to happen. And I'm even starting to wonder if this level of control, this level of thought policing and control is part of why we're seeing such just lack of imagination when it comes to our media, when it comes to our music, when it comes to our art these days. Did you guys see the clothing that was coming out in just basic department stores in the last couple years? I don't know what the hell is going on. It's like people's will to live in a creative way is being, like, their creativity, the soul, the spirit is being trampled upon in mass. Everything in the world around you, all of the creations that people have made, all of the inventions, all of the cool stuff, right? All of that, every single piece of it starts upstairs in someone's mind before it ever becomes a reality. So what goes in there is really important. And I know there are people out there, because I've heard them say it to my face, who make this argument about how, well, this is making people better. This is making the world safer. It's making people better. I think this is maybe one of the most dangerous things I've seen yet, actually, that they're doing this. Putting everyone into basically a little digital padded cell, safety and officially approved narratives on everything in this little amount of, hand-fed, pre-chewed, pre-digested, curated information where you can't be provoked or prodded intellectually to have to think about something. I mean, that is way worse, okay? Way worse for all of humanity and our entire future. They came out with a new AI that generates art from text. Somebody types a sentence, my friend sent this to me, and it generates a piece of art based on the sentence. And somebody tweeted, yes, yet another attempt to purify art by excluding lewd and taboo subjects. Yeah, no thanks. I'm sticking to human artists who will draw whatever they feel like without some moral panic attached to it. Because if you do that, if you try to purify the environment of everything that offends everyone, once you open the door to doing that, I mean, not only are you, that's like eons past when free speech was a thing, first of all. That's just, you're totally destroying freedom by doing that at all, of thought, of emotion, speech, all of it. But there's no stopping that road. Once you go down it and you have to start appeasing everybody because everyone, where does it end? Because it doesn't. It doesn't end. There will always be something that will always piss someone else off. I mean, I said this earlier. Eventually you'll end up in what? Like a gray, formless void, basically, that doesn't have anything in it. The humanity is gone. And once the humanity gets stripped out, what does that make humans? Because then human beings can't be human beings anymore. Everything will feel fake. Everything will feel derivative and inauthentic and spiritless. I don't think it's a coincidence that all these mainstream science publications are really pushing this idea right now that everything's a simulation, because if this right here that I just showed you isn't a simulacrum, I don't know what is. This is the definition of it right here. So you telling me the ramifications of that in supposedly democratic society is not horrible? Really? I would love to have that debate with anyone who will have it. That is some total BS, okay? Because everyone who writes for these publications is going to do everything they can to maintain themselves within the boundaries and lines of what allows them to continue to be placed on these lists. Think about that. Where's the room for dissent? Because if you don't have dissent, you don't have free speech. That is not a free society, and that's it, period. The end. That is why the First Amendment was first, and not any other number on that list. It is first for a reason. And while people are just acting like it's so easy to just throw away rights, pretty much every science fiction writer who ever thought about a dystopic future, these are the kinds of things they were concerned about right here, and they're happening. I don't know what else to say. It is what it is. Look at it for yourself. Try it. To me, when I first did this search and this was happening, to me, this is like when Shelley Duvall's character in The Shining finds Jack's manuscript and it's all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy for like 500 pages. To me, that's what this is. That is the modern internet equivalent of that. So I just wanted you guys to see it for yourselves. There's the wall. I'm showing you the wall. Somebody find the door. So there's the wall. The ship is slammed into it. There it is. That's the wall. You can see it now. So where's the door, guys? Where's the little stairs that go to the door? Somebody find the door, okay? We need to find the freaking door. Otherwise, we're trapped in this bubble. That's what's up. I love you guys. I'm going to put a list here of all of our alternate channels so you can see all the different places where you can find us. I'm probably going to start putting it at the end of every video because I don't know how much longer they're going to let us talk on here. I have no idea. I love you guys.